The story begins with our main character, Amber, who arrives in America with dreams of a better life. But due to a lack of proper identification and work opportunities, she's forced to take up a miserable job in a shabby factory. One day, she sees an ad for a cheap, girls-only hostel. Thinking it's affordable and might offer her some peace, she immediately packs her bags and moves there. She's greeted by the landlord, Red, who tells her that he's planning to renovate the old hostel soon. For now, only 2 girls live there, Amber and Freya. Amber feels relieved, believing she's finally found a small place she can call her own. But as night falls, strange things begin to happen. She hears footsteps in her room. When she looks, she sees a woman sitting there, scared and shaken, as if she's in shock. Amber assumes she's just dealing with a breakup or some emotional trauma, so she doesn't pay much attention. She starts looking at her mother's old photos and reminiscing about the past, but suddenly she feels a hand on her shoulder, even though no one is there. The next day after work, she's leaving the factory when she notices some strange shadows moving around on the upper floor. The factory owner treats the cheap laborers terribly, so Amber decides to get fake documents and leave. But the agent demands double the money. That evening, when she visits a relative's house, she's offered a new job, but they insist she must have an ID card. They don't realize the trouble Amber's in. Running short on money, Amber asks her landlord, Red, if she can get a refund on her rent so she can pay for the fake ID. But Red tells her the money was already used for room repairs. Desperate, she decides to borrow from her roommate. When she enters the room, the door's open, but no one's there. She assumes her roommate just went out, unaware that something invisible is standing right behind her. A little later, Amber feels movement inside an old wooden box in the room, but then she suddenly wakes up. It was all just a nightmare. Still struggling financially, she asks her boss for an advance, but he refuses. However, he adds with a smirk, "If you want, I can help you another way, but don't forget, when you become something in life, make sure to remember me." Amber thinks, "At least someone's supporting me," and happily leaves with the money. That night, while walking down the street, she feels like someone is following her. She turns around. No one's there. Suddenly, the streetlight flickers, and the atmosphere turns eerie. She quickens her pace and returns to the hostel. There, a man is checking the strength of a door, which makes it clear that Red isn't the only man in the hostel. Amber doesn't pay much attention and goes straight to her room. But then, she hears the sound of someone running outside. Suddenly, the hallway lights go out, and there's a loud knock on her door. After a few moments, everything goes silent again, like nothing ever happened. The next day, 2 new girls move into the hostel. Amber is surprised. It was supposed to be a women-only place. Then who was that man? Red explains that he's his older brother, and together they manage the building. Amber ends the conversation and heads toward her room. Just then, she notices that Red's room door is open. Out of curiosity, she steps inside and finds the room filled with strange insect specimens and photos. On the wall hangs a childhood picture of the 2 brothers. Suddenly, an old record player starts playing some weird chanting. It sounds like a ritual or sacrificial prayer. Amber puts on the headphones and listens carefully. The recording talks about some kind of sacrifice or religious ritual. Then her eyes fall on a photograph, the same wooden box she saw in her dream. At that very moment, she hears something fall behind her. Startled, she drops the photo frame, quickly picks it up, and rushes out of the room. The next day, when Amber reaches the factory, her friend Simona is missing. She's not answering her phone either. Worried, Amber asks the boss for her address, but he keeps dodging her questions and finally fires her. Now she has neither money nor a job. Heartbroken, she returns to the hostel. That night, while taking a shower, she hears a groaning sound coming from the drain. She turns off the water and listens carefully. A faint sound of a woman crying for help can be heard. Terrified, she pulls the curtain aside, but no one is there. Suddenly, everything goes silent in the bathroom. Panicking, she runs out and bumps into the landlord, Red. They have a brief conversation where Amber asks if Freya has moved out. Red says she left several days ago. Then, smiling, he tells her he'll return Freya's rent money the next day, since he doesn't have any cash at the moment. Amber feels relieved and goes back to her room. Later that night, she notices a moth flying around and suddenly feels trapped in a terrifying nightmare. The door of her room creaks open by itself. The hallway light flickers, and the whole atmosphere turns eerie. Gathering her courage, she looks toward the opposite room and sees the shadowy figure of a woman standing there. She tries to look more closely, but then footprints begin to appear on the floor on their own. Before she can make sense of it, two terrifying spirits emerge and start arguing loudly. Moments later, everything goes quiet again. Amber, trembling with fear, goes downstairs and sees one of the spirits kneeling on the floor, begging for mercy. The sight horrifies Amber. She quickly packs her things and calls her uncle, asking him to come and get her. But fate turns against her again. Her uncle is out of town. He tells her that if things get too bad, she should contact his friend. But being an undocumented immigrant, Amber can't go to the police for help. With no other options, she leaves the hostel and begins wandering the streets in the freezing night. The biting cold and her empty pockets make her situation unbearable. Desperate for shelter, she calls Red, but gets no answer. Eventually, she heads to a metro station to escape the cold. But the place, usually crowded with people, is strangely silent tonight. The lights flicker, and she suddenly senses she's not alone. Amber feels like she's inside the metro, but the next second, everything disappears. No passengers, no movement. When she turns around, she sees her mother sitting on one of the seats. That's when it hits her. This is the same nightmare that keeps haunting her again and again. A while later, the landlord Red arrives there. He says he brought the rent money, but in his hurry, he forgot it. Amber doesn't believe him, but still, she goes back to the hostel with him. Red tells her the money's in his room, but when he looks for it, nothing is there. As he keeps finishing one bottle of alcohol after another, Amber starts to feel something's off. Like this might be a trap. Finally, after the sixth bottle is empty, Amber realizes she's been tricked again. Before she can escape, a mysterious man named Kinsey suddenly shows up. Together, the two of them catch Amber and lock her inside a closed room. Now she's sure this house isn't just haunted. There's also some dark conspiracy between these two men. After a while, there's a knock at the door. It's two new girls who had moved in a few days ago. They were terrified too, because they kept hearing cries for help every night. The three of them realized that Red and Kinsey performed some kind of secret ritual at night, and that's the reason behind the screams. They plan to run away at sunrise, but fear doesn't follow a schedule. When Amber turns around, she sees dozens of shadows staring at her. Then suddenly, they all vanish. The next moment, she sees her mother, arms wide open, calling her closer. But just then, her roommate shakes her awake. It was another nightmare. Only now, the line between dream and reality has completely disappeared. The two girls try to escape from Red and his brother, but what could three frightened women possibly do against two men? Suddenly, the sound of a doorbell rings, giving them a brief moment of relief. The door opens, and standing there is Amber's uncle, Beto. Seeing him, Amber runs toward the window. Red tries to distract Beto with lies, but his eyes fall on Amber's jacket, the one he himself had given her. Just then, Amber breaks the glass window, and the sound reaches Beto. He rushes inside and finds Amber, but suddenly there's a loud explosion, and everything turns chaotic. Red and his brother grab Amber and take her to a place that looks like a stone-walled chamber. There they tie her down onto wooden planks. Horrifying marks were all over the walls, and an ancient door slowly began to open. From behind it, a massive, ghostly figure emerged. Its icy hands touched Amber's face, and in that very moment, Amber was pulled back into her dream, where her mother with blood-soaked eyes was staring at her. Her mother's cold hands gripped Amber's neck, and she began to suffocate. Suddenly, she woke up with a jolt, drenched in sweat, breathing heavily, and surrounded by silence. Everything was gone. She realized this was the final battle between her nightmares and reality. And as soon as she came fully to her senses, that terrifying monster and those dark spirits vanished like smoke. But where did that mysterious stone box come from? And why were those two brothers repeatedly sacrificing women? Back in 1963, a group of archaeologists discovered that stone box in an underground graveyard. Later, it ended up in the hands of the brothers' father. Legend said that if a woman was sacrificed to it, the one who performed the ritual would gain immortality. But when the father sacrificed his own wife, his son Kinsey continued the same dark tradition. The first night he saw Freya, she became his next victim. The spirits wandering around the house didn't actually want to harm anyone. They were trying to scare people away, because that stone box kills through dreams. But now the real danger begins. Red felt something strange and sent his brother to check outside. Seizing the moment, Amber fought back, but her strength didn't last long. Kinsey crushed her mercilessly. Just then, her roommate risked her life to save Amber. A brutal fight broke out between the two, and in the end, Kinsey himself fell into the jaws of death. By the end of the film, it's revealed that this story isn't just a horror, it's also a social satire, striking deep at the fears of immigrants, insecurity, and the exploitation of women. It leaves behind a haunting question: why is the sacrifice always a woman? In the final scene, as she prepares to leave, Amber feels as if she's alive again. Even her broken leg has healed. Maybe part of her stayed behind, and maybe that's where the curse began again.